I have these two guests to my right for two reasons. One, I've got a big fantasy draft tonight, and whenever I give you folks here on this show fantasy advice, I go straight to up to the top of the flow chart of any organization that talks fantasy football. That's one. And number two, I wanted to make sure that at least in the history of this show, that there's at least one segment that the folks at the NFL Media Group watch the show at the sound up. So that's why I'm having Michael Fabiano and Elliot Harrison here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Pleasure to be here.
It's great.
I take Antonio Brown first overall tonight in my draft, yes?
Standard scoring?
It is.
No.
Why?
Zig when they zag. I'm going Todd Gurley.
Fabs, really?
This is the year of the running back, man. The running back is coming back this season. When you look at Gurley's work last season, 12 starts, averaged about 16 fantasy points per game. And don't give me, well, he's got no offensive line, he's got no quarterback. He didn't have it last season either.
No.
To me, he is elite. He's the next Adrian Peterson. He's the next Marshawn Lynch. And I think you probably can get some pretty good wide receivers on the turn. It's a 12-team league, right?
It's a 10-team league.
Even better. So you're going to be able to pick from Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen. Guys like that will be there on the turn.
Do you agree with that, Elliot?
I don't. I love him, but no, because number one, Todd Gurley's not a thumper. So he's not the kind of guy that you have the potential of getting 18 touchdowns from like you would in Marshawn
Wait a minute.
Lynch's.
He had 10 last year in 12 games.
He had 10, but to me, he's still not a goal line thumper. Number two,
they got nobody else.
He's not a big pass catcher. Okay, and I get it, not a PPR standard, but you still get those yards. You know, Matt Forte still had value from the receiving yards that he got, for example. So to me, Antonio Brown was quarterback proof last year.
So now, look, you guys, hold on.
I don't know about that.
You guys are in an absurd number of leagues, I assume. Okay,
Too many. I've cut down, but yes.
So I'm only in one, or now two. Obviously, Brockman, you saw him the other night drafting that fantasy group with Jerry Cantrell and everyone else. Mm-hmm. I can't, from year to year, get out of the residual angst from the previous year's misfires. I had Antonio Brown teed up. I went DeMarco Murray instead the year before. I'm a lonely man. I'm a broken, lonely man that you're looking at behind the desk.
Yeah.
So I just can't. I can't pass it up again. I can't sit there and I know Gurley is far more dynamic than DeMarco Murray. I get it. I know, but I just can't. I can't do it.
I'm not saying he's not a great pick. Antonio Brown.
No, I know that. I asked you point blank.
In a PPR league.
No doubt.
It's Antonio Brown. For me, I'm going Gurley number one.
I think sans the suspension, Le'Veon Bell would be.
Yes, he would be my number one guy.
You know, but you're missing the 4 games there. But Le'Veon Bell is interesting.
Three games.
Yeah.
Or 3 games, excuse me. But he will not be there when you come on your turn. So you're 1 and 24, right?
But if I'm going Brown, I'm not going to draft the entire Pittsburgh Steelers roster.
Sure. You won't get Bell at that point.
No, he'd be gone.
He may be gone at the end of the first round, early second round. You lose 3 games. I understand that.
You're using a first-round pick on a guy that
he's that good.
You get maybe 10 games out of if you don't make the playoffs. I mean,
well, here's the thing, Rich. With taking suspended players, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Le'Veon Bell, is that really you want the best playoff lineup. That's what you want. So if you can survive, like you stay afloat at 1 and 2, let's say. Now your team's going to be a lot more stacked, especially if you get D'Angelo Williams.
So in drafts, you're looking at weeks 13, 14, and 15.
I am. I mean, I don't care if I go 1 and 2 to start the season. You could go 0 and 3 in fantasy. You generally make fantasy playoffs
You don't win your league in the first 3 or 4 weeks. You win it at the end.
That's right.
And if I can stay afloat, as Elliot said, for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and I have Tom Brady and Le'Veon Bell,
yes,
and you can stay afloat without Tom Brady because the quarterback position is ridiculously deep. Imagine the lineup you're going to have, Rich. Imagine that lineup that you're rolling out there.
You just need to win 8 games, 8 and 5. Go 8 and 5 in the regular season. You'll make the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, no one's going to want to face you.
Then make your hay. Elliot Harrison, Michael Fabiano here on the Rich Eisen Show. So who is, I guess, a tier 2 wide receiver who would be available for people who are in a 10-team league drafting a second, third time? Who are the guys that you think are under, like you're not going to get the top tier guy. Who do you go rounds 2, 3, and 4 when they're sitting out there that you think are viable to have first round fantasy years?
Mike Evans is going to be out there. Jordy Nelson
too. I said that the other day, didn't I, guys?
Keenan Allen's going to be out there. A guy I love this year is T.Y. Hilton. I think he puts a very solid season with Andrew Luck back.
Yes.
Good breakout candidate in Indianapolis too. Dante Moncrief. Watch out for him too.
I've noticed that if we're just talking round 2 here, Des Bryant has slipped a lot in fantasy drafts.
Because of Romo, or just because he was injured last year?
I think it's Romo. Yeah, I mean, in Cantrell's draft, he's my number 2 wide receiver. I got him in the 3rd round. That's stealing.
Des Bryant. And let me tell you, when they were run heavy a couple of years ago with DeMarco Murray, I don't think Tony Romo even had 500 pass attempts that year. Des Bryant still scored 16 touchdowns because in the red zone, he's money.
And I'm on board with Dak. I like what I've seen from him.
What does that mean, on board? You can go so many different ways. On board,
I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm a little bit of a homer.
In all seriousness, though,
you're talking fantasy. Late. I would draft him late. In a 10 or 12 team league, as a QB2, why not take a chance on the kid? He's in a great position to succeed, and he runs with the football, and that's huge for quarterbacks. We'll
take a break here. Back in 60 seconds, I want to ask you about a couple of running backs that have quarterbacks that are the backups. From Adrian Peterson to Ezekiel Elliott. And if you're sitting there 4-5, do you take either one of those guys, knowing that it's Sean Hill and Dak Prescott, even though I know you say you're high on him? I've got Elliot Harrison, Michael Fabiano of the NFL Media Group Fantasy Live Show, along with 19,000 other people on that show. Here on The Rich Eisen Show, though. Back in a minute. Welcome back to The Rich Eisen Show. We've got Michael Fabiano and Elliot Harrison doling out the fantasy football information. I've got a draft tonight. There's not one, but 2 fantasy shows daily on the NFL Network now, right?
Right. NFL Fantasy Live and Fantasy and Friends, which is a new show.
Fantasy what?
Fantasy and Friends.
Fantasy and Friends.
With Adam Rank, Maurice Jones-Drew, Aaron Coscarelli, and Dave Damashek.
Out of all 4, who would you consider a friend?
All 4. All 4. Okay. Yeah, no question about it.
Is that a rough question to ask? By the way, in terms of fantasy shows, we had really, well before you guys came on board the NFL Network, a real tough time trying to figure out how to talk fantasy.
KFFL.
Oh my gosh, we were really having a struggle with trying to figure out how do you talk about it, because it's like poker hands, right? Everybody's got a bad beat. Everybody's got the same hand. Everybody's won. Everybody's lost in certain ways. And now we've got 2 shows on that regard. How long have you been with the NFL Media Group now?
About 10 years now.
And how long have you been, Elliot Harrison?
This is season 8.
Wow. Who's the best producer you've had of any fantasy shows?
On the fantasy shows?
Yeah, off the air. Who's the best producer?
A bunch of our producers have done it. Hytham Kalani does a great job for us. Alex Wilk done a great job for us.
You know who did a heck of a job for us? Law Dog. No,
Chris Law.
Now Fabiano
is a former producer. See,
you weren't going. No, you weren't going to say Chris Law. You were not going to say Chris Law.
Law was.
You were not like in
because
terms
I was thinking of the people that are there now.
You were going for Law on your flex.
Left me.
You were going for Law on your flex spot. You're producing
I'm still
flex.
hurt about that.
I think that was his second defense.
That was yeah. Well, I was dropping a defense to pick up Law. He was doing that, right, Elliot? I mean, he was not going to. You knew where I was going with it.
Yeah, I did. The only thing about Law is.
Wait, Chris Law Fridays.
Oh, Chris Law Fridays.
We were late.
What do you mean?
Because the show took forever to tape.
We were so off the rails. But Law would get so stressed out. I mean, like literally, I walk over, he'd be leaning over his computer like this, gripping the desk.
Really?
But he did a heck of a job. Yeah. And he always had the Michael McDonald beard. That's not a Rich Eisen.
No way I know that.
Yeah.
Law, you're a desk gripper?
Gripper.
I mean,
wow.
I mean, Brockman. You sit next to him on the Chris Command Center. Has he gripped the desk?
It's a real wide desk, but you see him. He's always yelling at Del Tufo. He's always,
I tried to run a tight ship. In hindsight, a little bit too tight of a ship. Now that my on-camera presence is here, and I realize sometimes the best ideas come to you while you're just in the middle of it and out there.
Created a monster.
We would have pre-show meetings, and it was a tight 44-minute show, and we would be like, move on, next. Now I kind of realize how annoying that is. I'd like to apologize to you guys.
Now you're talent. Now you're talent.
I wouldn't call it talent, but I'm something.
All right, well, let's move on. Next. So you didn't like that, right? You didn't like that.
I didn't like that.
You didn't like that one bit.
I didn't.
Right there. You didn't like that one bit, but at least you're well-liked enough to get not one but 2 signed helmets and a couple of lunches, right?
That is true. 2 signed helmets.
Do you know how many signed helmets Chris Brockman got? Would you have signed a helmet for Chris Brockman?
Why would Chris Brockman want me to sign a helmet?
Why
in the first place?
Wow.
Why wouldn't I?
See, but I think we're getting down to the nitty and the gritty of what people think you were not into.
Nah, I don't need paraphernalia to prove my worth to a place.
Is that right?
Wow.
So what does that signed Jim Brown helmet look like in front of you? The signed Joey Logano Pennzoil bottle you've got there in front of you? What about that? The Terrell Owens signed Rich Eisen show
my
popcorn.
Gronkowski signed book and Sports Illustrated cover.
Seriously.
My Dennis Quaid signed Colt 45.
Yes, he leads the Rich Eisen show in autographs right now.
I couldn't sign anything for him anyways because I'm a Yankees fan and he wears that Red Sox hat too
Can I
much.
say something about Chris though? You know, we're at the fantasy draft at Jerry
Brockman?
Cantrell's. Yeah.
You talking about Brockman?
Yeah. And dude, you're not like Law. You don't grip the desk. But he did not socialize with anyone. So, like, we're all sitting there, we're all, talking, having a good time. Mike Inez and I are talking about kickers, right? He's with Alice in Chains. And Fabs was talking across the table. No, Brockman's just sitting there, and he's like this.
Very quiet.
He's focused.
Yeah, just totally focused, closing his eyes.
I had a lot of pressure. Rich put a lot of pressure on me to draft a good team.
I didn't put any pressure. I just told you two things. I don't want to know, and no Doug Martin.
No Doug Martin.
And you know what? I tried to get him to draft Christian Hackenberg, and he wouldn't do it.
Nice try.
I figured Hackenberg would be appreciative that he got drafted on one fantasy team.
Michael Fabiano and Elliot Harrison here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do you stay away from Adrian Peterson now that you know there's going to be at least 8-9 in the box all the time?
Who's his quarterbacks been in his career? I mean, you're going back to Gus Frerotte, Brooks Bollinger, Christian Ponder.
Tavares Jackson.
We're not talking about Hall of Famers here. He's played against 8 in the box his entire career.
He's 31.
Cyborg. I'm not worried about him.
I hear you.
Yeah, I like him. Actually, in our fantasy live draft at the network, and then also for MJD's team, I was in the 10 spot, which is the snake. So I'm doing 10-11, and I targeted Gronk and Peterson for that spot. Now Peterson came this close to dropping to me that far. I was shocked. I thought Peterson would be going around 5th overall. He's going more like 7th, 8th, 9th.
Hard not to have faith.
Let's say you're sitting there 4, 5, or 6. You know you're not going to have a shot at Ezekiel Elliott coming back. Do you take him in the 5 spot, 6 spot, even as high as the 4 spot because you know he's pretty dynamic and ready to roll or not?
I'm okay with it as long as you're a little bit more conservative later in your draft. I never believe in having 3 major risks on your team. Ezekiel Elliott's a risk. If you're taking him at 5th overall, what if they think Alfred Morris is more reliable? What if he hits some rookie jitters? Maybe he's not used to playing this many games.
The fantasy world would collapse.
Right. So I would avoid maybe taking a Keenan Allen later who's been hurt or a Jordy Nelson later who's been hurt if I'm taking somebody like Ezekiel Elliott. I want to be conservative throughout the rest of my roster.
See, I won't take him that low because you've got Gurley, and then you've got the big 3 at wide receiver. You've got Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., and Julio Jones. And I take Adrian Peterson also over Zeke. And David Johnson's right there, too.
Yeah.
He looked good at the end of last season. Good guy, a featured back, and an explosive offense.
Lamar Miller was the 2nd running back in my draft taken.
Wow.
Are you seeing him climbing up a lot of drafts? Because he has more touchdowns.
I like him, too.
He has more touchdowns the past 2 years than
I like him.
Bill.
I like him a lot. They just lost a couple of offensive linemen, which is a little bit of an issue. But he's never gotten that true featured role in Miami. He was still putting up top 10 numbers among running backs. Now in Bill O'Brien's offense, you would think he's got a good chance to be top 8
that scares
at worst.
me. That scares me because there's got to be a reason the Dolphins staff, if you look at his game logs, he's had 1 game in his career with more than 20 carries. 1. We're not talking about he's only been in the league. He's been in the league 3 or 4 years.
Playing from behind. I don't know. It wasn't smart. He's a good player. He's got that Miami, Florida running back pedigree going for him. I love Lamar
Makes you just wonder. It makes me wonder, why did the coaching staff not? If he was that productive and that good, there's got to be a reason he was not. Because it's not like the Dolphins had these great running backs behind him. So to me, he's also a little bit of a risk.
Damian Williams has nice things to say about you, by the way.
I've got 2 minutes left with Michael Fabiano and Elliot Harrison. Quick hitters. I want a sleeper at the running back position. Give me a sleeper.
Duke Johnson, especially in PPR leagues. Hugh Jackson has got a great track record of putting up very good running backs from a fantasy perspective.
Elliot, I want a sleeper at the wide receiver position.
Oh, a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Well, a guy that I like a tremendous amount is Keenan Allen. He's not a sleeper per se, but Keenan Allen was on pace to lead the league in receptions last year. I don't think people realize that. If you're in a PPR especially, this guy should be super high on your
I know,
draft
but
board.
I asked for a sleeper, and that answer's not going to cut it.
That's not a...
Wait, I can give you one. I can give you one.
It may work on Fantasy and Friends, but not here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay?
All right, how about Tyler Boyd? Tyler Boyd.
Now
Cincinnati
that's
Bengals.
That's deep.
a sleeper.
I was going with another Tyler.
Damn near almost my pillow sleeper right there. Should I do that right now?
Why not?
Do you guys have trouble
why not?
sleeping?
Occasionally.
There you go.
Not really.
Now you do, Elliot. MyPillow.com is the place for you to go and get yourself a great night's sleep. Brockman, you have the MyPillow.
I have it.
I have it. My wife has it. My parents have it. We're all sleeping like babies. Brockman and my wife had neck problems and shoulder problems. They're gone.
Gone.
Thanks to the pillows. And so bottom line is you go to mypillow.com, get custom fit, and score their best offer ever right now, the 4-pack special. It's 2 pillows for the price of 1, plus 2 extra Go-Anywhere pillows for free. Click on the radio listeners specials link on mypillow.com and use promo code RICH or call to order MyPillow at 800-613-5974. That's 800-613-5974. Sleeper at the defense. Give me a defensive sleeper.
A sleeper defense?
Yeah, damn straight.
Oakland Raiders.
I like it. There are 32 teams in 32 days today. That's coming up in hour number 3 of this show.
Correct.
Okay.
You know what? I'm co-signing that one right there. That would be mine too.
Boy, they
Oakland
made a lot of good moves in the
offseason. A lot of good
offseason.
moves, man.
Because like round 10, round 11. Everyone's
One
going
of
to
the
go.
last two.
What I'm saying, right?
Last round, you could get the Raiders defense, guaranteed.
One of the last 2 rounds.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Kicker defense. Stephen Gostkowski, I would definitely draft in the 9th, 10th, or 11th round, depending on the size of your league.
Attaboy.
So I will
Dan
give
Bailey.
kickers some love, my friends.
Good for you.
I love Gostkowski.
One other one. I'm not in an auction draft at all. They seem to be getting more and more popular. Can you guys make the case for an auction draft? Like, why would we want to do an auction
Auctions
draft versus Snake?
It's more of a social draft. You gotta put away 3 hours, 4 hours to do it. But auctions are a lot of fun.
I know.
They're a
it's
lot
too
of
long.
fun.
My draft needs to be 90 minutes or less.
But
Period.
if
End
you
of story.
like being a GM, like
Yeah.
if you always that fascinates
That's it.
you, that's more like being a GM than a regular fantasy draft because you're having to allocate your money in a salary cap just like a GM. That's what I think makes it cool.
I think Chris Law put down $3 or $4 on Christian Hackenberg.
Nice.
No?
I would, if it's a keeper dynasty league, yeah.
Choose him
But not in a
He's
redraft,
gonna
which is
build
what
a
most of us are
dynasty.
playing.
I choose him
Jets.
51st overall. That's what I would do.
Do you have a Blair Thomas poster, Law?
Nice.
Man, ouch.
Well, that was awesome.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Michael Fabiano
pleasure,
and Elliot
man.
Harrison. And if the sound was up over in Culver City, and there are a bunch of your colleagues wondering, how come you guys were on the show and not them? It's because Chris Law chose you to. Just letting everybody know.
I'm going to give
Chris
him a big
Law-
man hug once we're
Chris
done
Law
here.
booked this segment. So rank all those guys at Chris Law on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.